Hey, what up, YouTube? I'm making this video real quick. I know I say that all the time, and it's gonna fuck around and be 10, 15, 20 minute video. But I want to hit on Project Scorpio, and I feel like this is the one thing people aren't factoring in on what could lead to its flop or its demise, or it just not pretty much putting a dent in anything. Um, Now, this is a very unbiased discussion because I'm purely going based on not just specs, but the actual market itself, the current market. Um, I'm a PlayStation 4 owner. I have the PS4 Pro. Like I said, I'm not trying to be biased, but I'm letting you know. Um, but prior to that, I had the Xbox 360, and that's all I played. Getting the PS3 never crossed my mind. The only time like not having a PS3 really hit me and I was like, I wish I need to borrow one was for The Last of Us and Nino Kuni. And the only reason Nino Kuni is just because that's like essentially Pokemon esque. So that wasn't even a it didn't matter who created that game. If Microsoft had dropped that game and I had PS3, I would have still been saying the same thing because that's that Pokemon effect. Like that's the one thing. Actually, that's a whole separate discussion. But I feel like that's the one thing that if Nintendo and Game Freak finally get like, I don't know why Pokemon is still purely a handheld thing. But if they ever decide, if they ever want to be taken seriously, they're going to make a 3D open world Pokemon game, put it on the Switch, and they're gonna watch the world burn because literally. And I'm gonna just throw this in here real quick. Like I said, this is supposed to be about the Scorpio, but I'm gonna just get everything out of the way. We all know. We all know. I think it's the consensus. The reason why the Switch sold the way it did, two reasons: because they marketed it, not marketed it, but they comboed it. They released it with Zelda. If the Switch doesn't release with Zelda, it does not sell. If the Switch releases with some generic who knows what games, the Switch doesn't sell. Facts. Facts. The Switch wouldn't sell. Because they paired it with Zelda, this is now the most successful game slash console duo release since I don't know when. Second is the fact that they limited the units. It's all about Nintendo's marketing. Anybody who's smart realizes that it's not that the Switch sold so ridiculously well. It's like it's more of no, you all limited the number of units you put out there. If you were in a big city, if you were like in a Chicago, maybe even New York, you could probably walk into a store and buy a Switch after, a day or two. Like Switches were actually still available in Chicago. Like you could go to Target and get a Switch, but eventually they just all were gone. That's just the general hype factor. And like that's what not just a hype factor, but the human being psychological it's a huge factor in why I'm making this video. Why I'm making this video about Project Scorpio, essentially the next Xbox, whatever. The human being factor is a huge factor in this. Switch goes to show. You had people who went and snatched up all the Nintendo Switches, some to actually play them, some for resale. A nice chunk was for resale. It was the same thing when Nintendo brought back the NES Classic consoles. Anybody with common sense knows you can just emulate all those games, or you just get a Raspberry Pi and do the exact same thing for a fraction of the price. But no, you had people, Nintendo put out a very small amount, they limited the units, so everybody was going crazy trying to get their hands on one. It's that simple. And then you have people who are walking in a store and buying, like, oh, let me buy all the ones you have in stock. And because, let's say you're in a random GameStop in in who knows where, and they don't get people who do that often, and you're not really, like, let's say, like, I'm not the manager. Let's say I actually worked for GameStop for like a month or something. I can't remember. It was just a random experience. Let's say I'm not a manager and we don't even have an assistant manager. Let's say it's me and a senior game advisor. I don't even want to say a senior game advisor, but let's just say it's like a casual Wednesday or something, And it's me and this game advisor and these consoles. They got the NES Classic in stock, and some reseller walks in with a roll of money at like 10 a.m. when the store first opens, and they walk in like, I want to buy all of the ones you have. Because I'm not a manager or an assistant manager or anything like that, I'm probably like, I mean, I don't even think we have any set rules on that. So, okay, whatever. You got the money, you got the cash, you can get all of them. I don't care. I just work here. So, you have that. And that's essentially the same thing that kind of happened with the Switch, because you had a lot of people who had the Switch. And then you go check eBay, Amazon, you check all these outlets, and it's just resellers. You just got these Switches out there being resold. And then when people got too greedy and couldn't sell them, then they return them back to the store. So for like a solid week, couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks, you had Switches in stock and then gone. And then after returns, you had a couple probably back in stock. And yeah, and then, the people who actually really wanted them went and bought them. It's that simple. But anyways, let me get back on topic. Talking about Project Scorpio. Project Scorpio was announced with E3 2016 alongside with Xbox One S. That same year we had the Xbox One S. They had two versions of it, the 2 terabyte, I believe, and the 1 terabyte. I believe they both dropped in August, I want to say. I can't remember. Facts don't matter with me. Just, this is all you really need to know. Xbox One S was announced. We all knew about it. Project Scorpio was, I don't want to say revealed, but it was announced, so everybody knows about it. Xbox One S comes out. PS4 Pro came out afterward. I want to say PS4 Pro came out November 10th, I believe. I got my PS4 Pro the 10th as well. Not the 10th. I didn't get it when it first came out. I got it closer to Black Friday. I remember having my PS4 Pro, if not the day before. I think I had my PS4 Pro the day before Thanksgiving. I think that's when I got mine. I also went and bought a Samsung KU6300 TV, also during Black Friday. And like I said, everything I'm saying right now, there's a reason I'm saying it. The reason why Project Scorpio, or whatever they're going to officially name it, Xbox or whatever, Xbox Scorpio, the reason why it's not going to make any sort of dent, the reason why it's not going to be a factor, the reason why it's not going to save Microsoft, is because the human aspect of things. If you see me, I keep looking up, it's because I got a download going. But it's the human aspect of thing, the money aspect, the market. For the longest, all we had was LED, LCD, plasma TVs. And doing the slightest amount of research, it came to the consensus that LED was the way to go. To go along with that, these TVs were essentially what everybody was rocking with for a while. Like, I can't remember exactly when LED or, just more flat screened, TVs became the norm. I want to say, I want to really say it was already the 2000s for sure. It was already the 2000s. Um, I can't think of a specific year, but I want to say Xbox 360, PS3, and Wii were out for sure. Like, those were out for sure. Um, I'm trying to think if LED, LCD, if LCD and LED were already the norm when PS4, Xbox One, and GameCube were out. That that may have been. I'll just be safe and say that when PS2 first dropped, LCD and LED TVs were may have already been on the market, and they were slowly becoming the go-to, you know, TV. Not yet completely, not yet. And then probably after a couple years, they were pretty much the norm. Um, what I think Microsoft may have forgotten a bit was that the TVs go hand in hand with the consoles. They forget that these TVs we have now and the consoles that are being developed now, the big thing with people is the quality of the picture. So 4K, 4K HDR, 4K native, 4K this, 4K that. What was it? Wide color gamut, 10-bit panel. All that's a huge factor. Now, that's not the same as HDMI necessarily. HDMI was something that was kind of simple. When PS3, Xbox 360 dropped, they had HDMI inputs. Actually, I'm pretty sure the original Xbox 360 had an HDMI input. Actually, see, I don't do research. I don't do research on these things. I'm trying to think about this. I'm trying to think like did this thing come with an HDMI input? I actually feel like they may have not. I don't know if they did. I don't actually, like, I'm sitting there thinking, so maybe let me retract my statement about LED LCD TVs necessarily being the norm when PS4 and everything was out, but they were definitely there. They were coming up. Um, I'll more safely a more safe thing to say. I'll safely say that when Xbox 360, PS3, and Wii came out, I'll say that LED, LCD, I'll say that's when they became the norm on the market. Um, and then to go along with that, HDMI became a big thing because it started to become about 1080p. That's 1080p was the thing. It was 720 or 1080, 720 or 1080. Because I can't remember if the original Xbox 360 or PS3 had HDMI inputs. I feel like they did. I really deep down do feel like they had HDMI inputs. I'm gonna just stick with it and say they had HDMI inputs. But because those things had HDMI inputs, that was the thing. That was it. But you can still, even if your TV did not have HDMI, we were still in that world where, um, you can still connect with, uh, you can either do RBG or, what's RCA? I can't think of what it's officially. I'm pretty sure it's RCA. You can still connect that way, but we slowly but surely became this world of people where it's like picture quality. You know, I want to hook it up with the HDMI because that's how I'm gonna get my best picture. And a lot of times, once you converted somebody, like once you sold somebody, like why are you still hooking this up with these, with red, yellow, white, you know? And you get an HDMI cable, and it's like all it needs, you just need this cable, hook that in the back, hook it in the back, and the whole picture quality, like you're like mind blown. Like when you first see that, everything from that point on is like you're looking for HDMI. If you were getting a console, your TV essentially, you want your TV to have HDMI. What makes or breaks your sales are the casual players, not the hardcore tech savvy people. It's the casual players. It's the casual people. What you have to realize is once we went into this next gen of consoles, 4K TVs had already began releasing, but 4K was not the norm. 4K still technically isn't even the norm, but it's become a lot more acceptable. 4K won't be the go-to until you can get like a 50-inch 4K for 500. I'm talking about name brand. I'm talking about until you can walk in the store and get like a 50-inch Sony or a 50-inch Samsung 4K TV for like $500. That's when that's when you'll know that this is officially the norm. That's when you'll know. That's when when you walk in everybody's house and their old TV is the one that has 1080, but the one in the living room, the big 60, 65-inch, whatever, is 4K. That's when 4K will truly be the go-to norm. What some people forget, even though Microsoft shit the bed, E3 2013, when they first announced Xbox, well, I don't think that's when they first, well, actually, I think that is when they first announced Xbox One and everything. Um, because they literally committed console suicide, all Sony had to do was come on a stage and say hello, and they won. But the one thing that people weren't like nobody was rioting about this, but people were slightly upset a little bit was the fact that the original PS4 was not 4K. Everybody thought like we're in a whole new technology world, we're in a new technology generation, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. These consoles are going to be 4K. The Xbox One and the PS4, neither of them were 4K. So people slightly complained, but the casual people didn't. It was only the hardcore, more tech savvy people that were like, "Oh, there's no 4K." Like, "Oh man, okay, whatever, whatever, whatever." I wish these should have came with 4K. These should have came with 4K. But in reality, if these consoles would have dropped with 4K, they would have cost a lot more. You wouldn't have gotten the original PS4 for $400. It would have been $500-$600 because of the 4K technology. Straight up, it would have been a wee bit more money. It's actually a good thing that the PS4 Pro and Xbox One S did not come out until essentially 3 years later, because prices went down. This is the technology world. When new tech comes out, the price is high as hell. Give it a couple years, begins to decrease. When 4K TVs first came out, Jesus, the price of a 4K TV when it first came out, when they were untested and there wasn't even really any 4K content, the only people who were buying 4K TVs when they first came out were people who were stupid rich. And they just had it just cuz. Literally, they had the TV just cuz they could afford it. Nobody else got a 4K TV because there was no 4K content. We now live in a world where we have the PS4 Pro, the Xbox One S, the PS4 Pro, well, PS4 in general gives you HDR, but the PS4 Pro has its form of 4K. It's not 4K native, and most people, I think they know that by now, but still, it gives you, this 4K HDR and everything like that. Same for Xbox One S. Now, the Scorpio, if you don't know the specs yet, I'm not about to list off the specs. I don't even have any paper or anything in front of me. But essentially, long story short, the Scorpio, when it comes out, will be spec-wise the best console to have ever graced the earth until the next thing comes out. I'm pretty sure whenever PS5 finally gets announced, it'll be way better than the Scorpio. That's just how things go. That's how the world works. But when the Scorpio drops, it will be the most powerful console in this current generation. Going back to my comment where I said, when I bought my PS4 Pro, I also bought a new TV. Why did I do that? A, because I ended up not paying full price for either of the two. But B was I understood that in order for me to get the most out of the PS4 Pro, it was very dependent on my TV. I had the original PS4. I've had a PS4 since the release day. And I actually had a 4K TV. But although my stuff looked beautiful, I knew my original PS4 wasn't getting the most out of it. Now when PS4 was announced, the PS4 Pro was announced, I'm like, okay, I already got my 4K TV. Yeah, I'm about to be on. I'm about to actually be able to get the most out of it. But wait, there's more. Introducing HDR. So, essentially, because of HDR, my 4K TV that I had bought in 2014, that was about $1,200, in a sense was outdated now. And I'm like, if this ain't a bit, I waited so long to be able to truly game in 4K and everything, and now they introduced the new console, and I won't even truly be able to get everything out of that console, which essentially forced my hand, because, like I said, it's psychology. The diehard gamers and things like, people like me, people who look at specs and things like that, you want that new console. You want the quality. But it's not just the console alone. It's the TV as well. Your TV has to be able to actually handle what's being put out. If I had a PS4 Pro and I was still using a regular LED 1080p TV, what's the point of me getting a PS4 Pro? The only reason, if you go on Reddit or any discussion board where it's like, should I get the PS4 Slim or the Pro, it all comes down to, well, do you have a 4K TV? And then more specifically, do you have a 4K TV with HDR? Because that's the difference. The human eye, everybody's like, oh, well, you can't really even tell or see the difference. You can and you can't. But if I spent 400 and I really didn't spend 400 on my PS4 Pro, and in order for me to truly get the most out of it, I need 4K and 4K. No, I need 4K and I need HDR. I need a TV that has the HDR tech. Well, then guess what? I went from having like a 50, what was it, 50 or a 55-inch Samsung 4K TV to essentially having a, I think this is a 40-inch 4K with HDR entry level TV. So I went from actually having a very nice 4K TV to having what's considered as a entry level HDR 4K TV. Just so I could truly enjoy the PS4 Pro. And then even at the end of the day, this TV doesn't have the wide color gamut. So there's so much more that goes along with this. Now I'm hoping after 26 minutes you all already see where I'm going with this. But long story short, with the specs that the Scorpio has, you're going to need a TV. You're going to need to upgrade and get a TV that's definitely 4K HDR and one that most likely costs easily $1,000 plus. Because you're not even going to want an entry level 4K HDR TV. This TV I have right here sitting in front of me costs what, like $450? The next best thing, which is a Sony XBR Bravia X800D, which beats out this TV slightly, costs what? Is it $550? I can't remember if it's $550 or $650. I want to say $650. $650. So if you go the Samsung route, you're getting an entry level, but you're still missing a little bit of technology in it. But it gets the job done. The next best thing, which is actually better than, I'm saying that wrong, but the X800D is a better TV, and it actually has not the best specs, but essentially that TV was made for the PS4 Pro, or vice versa. You get the TV that goes essentially perfectly with that console. But after that, just about every other 4K TV, every other 4K HDR TV is about $1,000 and up. You have the Sony X900E, absolutely beautiful TV. I want to say that TV is going for what, $1,200? $1,200. $1,200. That's the type of TV you're probably gonna have to buy in order to truly get what you're paying for with the Scorpio. Like, do y'all get what I'm saying? It's not gonna be a let me spend 500, 600, however much this damn console is gonna cost, and take it home and just play it on the TV I have now. No. The psychology of it, you're gonna want the best possible gaming experience. If I spend $600 on a console, this thing better look amazing. It better look godly, triple S tier. But in order to get that, I'm going to need a very nice TV. So I could mess around and walk in the store and have to spend $2,000 on that TV console combo. For $2,000, I can get a 1440p, 144 hertz G-Sync monitor, build a custom gaming PC, and still probably have a couple hundred left over. We already know PC gaming is definitely better than any console. And for the amount when you look at them, what seems like the smarter choice? Let me get a console that's kind of sort of gonna require me to have an expensive TV, or do I just go build a PC and then just keep going along with that? I'm talking about a PC with a very nice graphics card. I'm talking about at least 1070 of them at the minimum. 1080 is like 1080 is gonna cost you a rig with a 1080. I'm seeing about a rig that's gonna cost you at least 1,300 to 1,500, somewhere in there. And then with the monitor, you can probably get that monitor cheapest between 400 and 500, unless you get the top of the line. So now you're at 700 for the monitor alone. We're talking about a monitor, not a 40 something inch TV. You're talking about just like a 20 something inch, 30-inch monitor. Do you all see where I'm going with this? Microsoft is trying to do whatever they can to jump back into this by creating the best console. But I feel like they just completely did not factor in human beings' lack of going into a store and trying to drop 2K. They did not factor in the casual gamer who's going in the store like, yeah, I'll probably spend 500 on the console, but I'm not also trying to buy a new TV as well today. I don't want to buy a console and then have to save up like 5-6 checks to go buy a new TV months later. Like, I don't want to do that. I think that's what's going to screw them over. And then also, Sony, just to make things worse for Microsoft, Sony actually has made 1080p HDR TVs. So if you have the PS4 Slim, guess what? Instead of jumping all the way to 4K and everything like that, you're a person of, modest means. You don't need 4K. Really, we still live in a world where there ain't much 4K content out there. So people really still do not need 4K. You telling me now I can go buy me a 1080p with HDR, which still looks really fucking nice, and I can still get the HDR tech out of my PS4. I can actually benefit from it. Plus Netflix is doing HDR, quality stuff. So it's not like you're literally getting this just for your PS4. You're getting HDR from Netflix as well. Just about everybody on damn earth watches stuff on Netflix. And Netflix has HDR. Netflix also has 4K. But Netflix also has HDR. So Sony, once again, they're just coasting along, driving off into the sunset. Microsoft is about to blow hella money making this console, making these units, and then they got to try to sell it at a competitive price. It's the only people who are going to buy this are Microsoft / Xbox diehards, or people who are just rich. It's as simple as that. Like, you either got money to blow or you're a diehard fan and you're going to blow the money. But it's all about the casual gamers. It's going to be about the casual gamers. You walk into GameStop and you ask an employee, which console should I get? It's my son's birthday. I want to buy him a console. They're probably going to tell you get a PS4 Slim. Because that's what the majority of people have are PlayStation 4s. I'm just keeping it real. I just had to make this video. I had to get it off my mind. Because this is the one thing that people aren't factoring in. You listen to a lot of podcasts and they tell the specs, this, that, and the other. But they aren't factoring in human nature. They aren't factoring in human nature. That most people are not ready or willing to spend the money on 4K tech yet. So you can go on and make super consoles, but who's gonna buy that console and not even truly get what they're spending on it because they don't have a TV that supports it nicely? Video game consoles are not just a one thing market anymore. It's about the TV and the console. So that's all I got to say. Peace.